Hey dreamers, it's Janae here to brighten, enlighten, and ignite your day. Week 1, Power of Intention. Day 5, Treasure. This is our focus. Scripture tells us that wherever your heart is, there is your treasure. And that's really what the perspective of treasure I want to look for is not that golden treasure that you're out there looking for, but it's a treasure within us. So I wear my love shirt today. It's a very special shirt that I wear at certain times where I want to reflect the essence of who I am on the inside to the outside. And that's what it's all about, is we can have these great dreams, legacy, bucket list, destiny, all the things we've talked about in the other days. However, if we don't believe we're worthy of these treasures and that we don't treasure ourselves from the inside out, there will be such a gap that it will be so difficult to achieve the dreams that we so desire. So we need to align the inner treasures, the beauty of who we are and how we're created, to these outer dreams, okay? So this idea we're gonna build in deeply throughout this program is Tony Robbins has 3 steps to a breakthrough, okay? Step number 1, and he puts them in different orders, but step number 1, as I see it, is having the story. The first one is story. This is an empowering story. We created our stories in these last few days, especially with the dream that we have for our lives. Now we need to have the story of who we are. We are worthy enough. There's enough love and desire and goodness and faith and smarts, whatever we need to reflect on the inside to bring that and manifest it on the outside. So it's having that empowering story that matches who we are. And he grew up in a disempowering story with some of the hardships he had as a young child, and it wasn't until he said, you know what? Maybe it doesn't have to be this way for me as an adult. I can choose my story and change my outcome. And it's incredible what that man accomplishes on a daily basis. Okay, and so here's another example. Harvey Mackay has some great articles in the paper, and here's one that really talks about the heart of what I'm talking about today on this treasure map. Losers visualize the penalties of failure. Winners visualize the rewards of success, says sports psychologist Bob Gilbert. 2-time Olympic pentathlete Marilyn King provides a very moving example of how powerful the conscious use of picturing what you want you can be. Okay, so it's about how she pictured who she truly is on the inside for what her dream was on the outside. So when King was preparing for the 1980 Olympic trials, she suffered a severe back injury and was confined to bed just 2 months before the trial. She was determined not to let this injury keep her from performing, so she spent her time doing nothing but watching films of the best performers in the pentathlon events and visualizing herself going through the same events. Amazingly, she placed second at the Olympic trials despite her lack of physical preparation. She credited her psychological state, not her physical condition, which resulted in her victory. She said, "If you can't imagine it, you can't ever do it. In my experience, the image always precedes reality." I'm going to read that again. She said, if you can't imagine it, you can't ever do it. In my experience, the image always precedes the reality. So it's not just an image of the things we want to do, but it's an image of who we are, that we are good and worthy enough, and that we have this destiny that we can rise up to believe it, right? We have to understand and get that energy and story from the inside to live that treasure and to find those outer treasures in our dreams. So Bo Eason, I'm sure I'll mention him a few times throughout this program because his story is really fascinating to me, but he was a professional football player turned playwright turned now a speaker coach. And what's so cool is that at age 9, he had a dream for his life that he would be the best safety in the world. And through the help of his family and hard work and dedication, he achieved that many years later, but it was a 20-year plan. So that next chapter, that dream was that. However, just as important as all the physical things that he needed to do, he needed to create a story in his head that he was worthy enough. Because what was so interesting, and when you see him now, he's not a big dude, right? You're thinking these football players are all big guys, but he wasn't. And in fact, his play is called the runt of the litter because that's really kind of what he was. He was the sixth child in his family, a small guy. And what was tough is even in high school, the coach didn't even want him on his team because he was too big. And he said that one of his most defining moments is when he came home to tell his father, who's a huge dream champion of his, and really instilled that he was the best and he could achieve this. He said, well, if that coach might measure the outside of who you are and think you're not good enough, but if he could measure inside your heart, it would be over, right? Of course, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that idea is like measuring the heart of who he is, that inner treasure far exceeds any dream that he had out there, and that's what kept him going. So your future self, who are you and who do you need to become to have your future self? So we're thinking of this, of course, big picture with your dreams, but specifically with your goal. Okay, so let's take a look at the transformation. The 1, 2, 3, choose what's best for me. Number 1, I would encourage you, one and done, to journal. Similar to what you did about the dreams that you have, is journal who you need to be as your future self for your dreams overall. 2, good for you. This is where I want to clothe yourself in your future self. So like me, right? I put on my love shirt, and a fun story about this is one person that I really admired, a legendary dreamer, you could say, is Immaculée Ilibagizia. And so she's a Rwandan genocide survivor, and she speaks all around the country about her faith. And I really admired her traits and her faith. And so when I had a first time, well, actually second time I heard her speak, but the first time I went to a smaller retreat with about 300 people there, I wanted to stick out and I wanted to share my love for God with her. And so I clothed myself with my inner treasure so I could share that with her outer treasure. And I, did whatever I could to smile and emanate that. And I did have a chance. There was only 3 or 4 people that got a one-on-one with her, and I was one of those. And I had that shirt, and it was one of the first things she mentioned was my shirt. So clothe yourself in who you are. So for this, I want you to think about the bigger picture of clothing yourself and what kinds of tangible things, but also your gold medal self. So we are running a race together, and I want you to picture at the end of the race you receiving your gold medal for that top goal. But you have to be the future runner that's ready for this, that's ready to be rewarded your gold medal and to stand proudly with whatever accomplishments that it takes. Number 3 is key. Here, modeling the idea of your dream map is to create your own treasure map. So you could have fun in drawing and making a fun little map or creative things that you could cut out. But what are those internal kinds of road maps and signs and cities and whatever kind of a treasure map you need to achieve your goals? So that could be another fun kind of creative endeavor for you as we look at the treasures, because it is the treasures that we hold in our heart that we can bring out to the world and really make a difference. So from my heart to yours, be love.